draft combine. Just overall, what has this process been like? A couple days into it, and just how you're enjoying things so far here in Chicago.
I'm very, very grateful to be here. This whole process has been amazing. Seeing all the big name players and big time guys out here has been really humbling. I just can't really express it too much in words. I'm just super happy to be here, super excited.
Come from a school like UAB, and then before that, obviously in JUCO. I mean, what are you trying to showcase here for teams, fans, anything that maybe haven't seen you play as much college basketball as you have?
Just, I feel like my game is still developing now, but I'm getting caught up to date. I'm a willing passer. Good rebounder. I just want to show guys that I'm pretty much a jack of all trades. I'm gonna try my best to express all my skills and show them I'm a good teammate.
This has been a long path for you, 5 years, and starting off in JUCO. I mean, reflected it all on the journey and kind of where you started to where you are now.
Yeah, man, it's a blessing, to be honest with you. All glory to God, and thank you to my mom as well for helping me out and digging me out of the hole that I was in. Super grateful, to be in this position, and I'm looking forward to doing more.
Yeah, so where you at with your stay or go decision? You got a lot on your plate.
Yeah, I know I just said 60-40 with Michigan, man, but this whole process is really opening my eyes. I feel like now I'm definitely equal. Like I'm super stuck, quick stand, whatever you want to call it. I'm stuck in between for sure.
What do you need to hear to stay?
I mean, I just want to be in a position where I'm like, I'm safe. I know that I can get the opportunity to play, opportunity to prove myself, and just hopefully a guaranteed contract would be cool.
Can you speak to the NIL situation at Michigan and how they're looking to be competitive with what you could get here in the NBA?
Yeah, they threw out their number, and it wasn't really much of a competition. The competition for them was more like just the trust in them. It wasn't about the money. We made it a point that the money wasn't going to move me anyway. So just the coaches' honesty and faith and belief in me was what was competing with the NBA.
How did you develop that in probably a somewhat short time with Dusty and the staff?
Yeah, well, I was a fan of Dusty's since he was at FAU. I've been a big fan, and from the jump, he was expressing to me that he's willing to wait while I go through this NBA combine process. Other teams weren't saying the same thing. They were willing to outbid the NBA, and I wasn't, messing with that. I wanted a school that was going to rock with me from the beginning to the end, and that was Dusty.
What part of your game you feel like is going to translate the quickest to the NBA?
My rebounding and my passing, my decision making. That's something I'm really harping on, and leaning on to help me be where I need to be when it comes to playing another level.
What do you think it is about your rebounding, or what do you do to make yourself such a good rebounder?
I just try to time it. I'm not the most athletic guy, so I try to beat guys to the spot and figure out where it's going to go before they do.
What has opened your eyes exactly about this process? I mean, obviously you're testing well and you played well today in the scrimmage. I assume that's part of it.
Yeah, that is. Yeah, just the different pace, how much better these guys are over here. I couldn't really see that many misses while we were playing the other team. And that's completely different from AAC. We were playing. You can sag off a guy, not really hurt you, but you can't do that out here. And a lot of guys super athletic, and it's really something to be in.
When you say guaranteed, do you want like a guarantee from a team that they would take you at that spot, or you just mean like your draft stock projections and stuff like that?
A team saying that they'll take me for sure, so I can know. We have those conversations in the background, and just making sure that we're all set.
For sure.
Yes, sir.
So is that what's going to go in your decision? You want to promise before you decide to either stay or go?
Yeah, that's pretty much what all it's been. Yeah.
So you think that would happen this week with the teams, with the meetings that you're having with the teams, or do you think you'll have to go and work out and then decide? Like, when do you think what's gonna go into this decision?
Yeah, I hope it happens before May 28th. Me and my agency are gonna talk as much as we can, to try to get a promise from just one team. That's all we need. And if it doesn't happen by then the decision is gonna be really hard to make. So.
Yeah.
When you checked in, you and Vlad were guarding each other. It looks like you exchanged some words and were laughing a little bit. Can you talk about what maybe have you discussed with him? And then Danny said he met you today. Like, what have those guys said about Michigan?
Yeah, they just, just quick conversations. Vlad was more talking about my shoes and, building chemistry. And I was like, yeah, of course, because we played each other at FAU. Yep. Danny Wolf, I seen in an interview, he said something about me as well. We talked to each other for like 2 minutes maybe, just talking about life. It wasn't much about them selling Michigan, just how they are doing now and how I'm doing.
How much of how Michigan used Danny Wolf last year influenced your decision to commit?
It was 100% like the biggest influence, to be honest, other than, my respect for Dusty May. I loved how they used him and Vlad together. That's always a role that I wanted to play as well, coming off ball screens, being able to make that read, that's something I've always wanted to be a part of.
It sounds like if you don't get that promise, end up in Michigan, you're not going to be devastated. You seem happy either
Oh
way.
yeah,
maybe?
no, yeah, I love Michigan. I was there for like 3 days and I fell in love with it immediately. You know, the fans have been very supportive of me as well. You know, texting me as much as they can. You know, saying that they're fine with me either way. So you know, that's something I love too.
You know, obviously you've started meeting with teams, and what's been the feedback, you know, that's going to go in and either influence your decision to stay or go?
Well, a lot of teams have been, you know, pretty much saying that if I stay, that they'll still be with me. They'll still watch me. So, you know, that's something that's really relieving for me. But I just hope that a team can just let me know early,
Right.
so I don't mess anything up. You know, make sure I don't make the wrong decisions. You know,
Right.
so.
When you said your mom helped, pull you out of the funk, if you don't mind a little more detail on that. Like,
Yeah, in high school I was a terrible kid. You know, I probably wasn't even going to graduate. You know, before my senior year, my mom sat me down and had a real heart-to-heart conversation with me. You know, really emotional. We were both crying. You know, and then she ended up in the conversation talking about my grandfather who passed away, and that was one of my biggest inspirations. She was basically saying, how would he feel about this, you know, and that's something that really stuck with me. So, you know, I vowed to be a better person, you know, and she forced me to get into the basketball game, and I stuck with it, you know. She brags to me about it, you know, always listen to your mom and stuff like that, and that's something, you know, I cherish, and I really respect my mom, and I'm really happy that, you know, she was there with me and able to bring me here pretty much.
you said it was like junior, senior year, high school.
Yes,
end,
right
or-
before senior year is when she had that conversation,
Okay.
yeah.
Yeah,
So
saw
that was
something you
a
were.
bad track, yeah.
Okay, you were very into video games. I saw a story.
Yes, sir.
with that.
I still am.
Okay,
but
okay.
I'm working on my sleep schedule, so I'm good now.
All right.
So you played 11 games in high school, is that right?
12
12,
officially, yeah,
and
because
then
of the playoff game.
is it true you were like crying on the flight to Arizona?
Yes. Oh, my
Take
goodness.
us through that, I guess, like, because now you're here at the combine and you're talking about getting the potential first round prom. Like,
Yeah.
just the difference between that and where you came from to this.
Man, getting on that plane, I was freshly turned 18. This was gonna be my first time away from my mom. It was awful. I pretty much cried the whole flight there. As soon as I get to Arizona, it was terrible. You know, it was just straight desert. There's no trees. I never like, you know, so it was brutal. But the difference now is, you know, I actually love basketball now. You know, at first it was just like a chore. Now it's like what I want to do for the rest of my life.
Where'd you grow up?
New Jersey. I was in Ohio for half and then New Jersey for the rest.
Okay. Where in Jersey?
Pensacola, South Jersey. Yes, sir.
You're born in Puerto Rico.
Yes, sir.
What's been your overall experience this week?
Man, just a bunch of happiness, you know, a bunch of butterflies, you know. It doesn't feel real, you know. I never thought I'd be here, and I just cherish every moment. You know, I'm super grateful, super humble about this situation, and hopefully I can make the best of it.
What's something you hope teams take away from seeing you this week?
Seeing I'm a good teammate, you know, I always want to do the best that I can just for the team to win, whether it involves me or not, you know. Willing to make the extra pass, get an extra rebound for us, you know, just my energy as well. Hopefully that can, you know, spark some conversation with teams.
Should you choose to enter the draft and hear your name called, what's the first thing you would do?
Hug my mom and cry. You know, I'm gonna say this is because of you. Do the best I can to let the world know that as well. But I know I'll be crying the whole way up to the stage while I'm taking a picture. I'll be crying the whole time.
What would you want your legacy to be?
That's tough. I just wanna leave a good impact on, you know, children as well, you know, the kids, because, you know, I wasn't always highly rated or just, you know, talked about by the media. You know, this is like my first time experiencing this. So, you know, those kids that were in the same predicament as me, I would love to, you know, give them that courage that they don't have to give up, that they can keep going, and hopefully they can be in the same predicament as me, if not better, you know.
Did you do any organized basketball then before the little bit of high school, or what was?
I played like in little leagues with my friends, you know, like there's one called PYAA, just, you know, just a fun little league, that stuff like that, and just outside leagues, that's all. Nothing really like, we're gonna practice this many days and that many days, but just a bunch of having fun with my friends is all it was.
So do you feel, I mean, you maybe have even more untapped potential than the average person your age? I
Yeah,
guess?
100%, yeah, because I never really worked out in the summer until this year, so this is something that's really been new to me, you know, just being more professional as well. It's great.
Taking that visit to Michigan a few weeks ago, like, what made you do that? Did they have to convince you to come in? And then what was kind of their message to you while you were there?
The visit was my idea, you know. I texted Dustin May and asked if I can come up. He said, yeah, and when I got there, it was amazing, you know. When, the message they gave me was they're going to be willing to wait for me the whole time. You know, they don't want to rush me into anything. Whatever I want to do, they're going to support me either way, you know. They worked me out, you know, they were there talking to me, and it was really nice. It was super genuine, and that's all it was about.
And what would it be like to play next to Adai Mara and Merez Johnson, like two guys they have that'll be there either way, but if
Yeah.
you came there?
Man, I feel like we'll be amazing. You know, just coming off the pick and rolls, I can hear Merez. I know he's a big time athlete. I haven't seen much of him. You know, I did my research, but you know, 7-2 is pretty much the same thing you can do with that. You know, so hopefully we can build a quick chemistry and do the best we can to win as many games for Michigan.
What do you remember about when you played against FAU? Like, what was that experience like? And it seems like a lot of players that play against Dusty's teams like have this respect for him more than maybe other coaches.
Yeah, because a lot of coaches, do a lot of screaming and yelling in the game and getting players' faces and stuff like that. Dusty wasn't nowhere near that. He was always supportive. From what I've seen, we'll talk to the player like afterwards in private, and that's something I love. I really respect that. It's great, and it's also good for the player's mind.
Has he joked with you at all this week about, hey, don't play too well?
Yeah, he just said that to me earlier. Yeah.
What'd he say?
No, he was like, yeah, you're doing good, but try not to do that good. Just a little joke, but it was cool. I like that. Yeah.
How difficult was it for you to navigate the portal, the NIL process, and then this draft process kind of all at the same time?
The portal process was pretty easy. We narrowed down our 3 schools before I entered the portal. Michigan was always at the top of the list for me, so that part came easy. The draft process is something that is kind of hard to deal with because obviously I love Michigan a lot, and the NBA is the all-time goal. So it's been really hard thinking about it. I've been talking to God as much as I can, trying to see if I can get any signs or anything, but I haven't got nothing yet. Hopefully it comes pretty soon because I don't have that much time left.
And who were the other 2 with Michigan that you kind of narrowed it to?
Kentucky and Auburn.
Kentucky. I covered Kentucky. I know you met with Coach Pope.
Yes,
is that
sir.
right?
Yes, sir.
What was that meeting like?
The meeting was great. He seems like a great guy, super genuine as well. Somebody, I would love to be around, like hanging out with outside of basketball as well. It's just the approach was a little different than Michigan's, respect-wise, and that's something that really played into me picking Michigan over Kentucky.
Is your mentor, is that Aaron Johnson? Is
Yes,
that
sir.
right?
Yes, sir.
And like Dusty coached him?
Yeah.
At UAB?
Yep.
Can you talk about that connect? Like, was that an easy way to like connect you two?
Yeah, they were talking a lot, and that kind of led to me talking to Dusty May as well, which is easier to access. So that was great. But Coach AJ loves and respects Dusty May as well, so that's obviously 2 connections right there that works the right way.
So this is for NBA Latin America. I know you have big roots in Latin America. In fact, you were born, but you were born there. So can you explain? You are from Puerto Rico, but also Dominican. Could you explain us?
Yeah, well, my mom, she was in college at the American University in Puerto Rico, so she had me while she was in college. But all of our background roots is all Dominican Republic, So that's where my mom lives, my dad lived, that's our nature, So we're going to represent Dominican Republic, as proudly as we can.
Okay. Because yesterday when we were posting your plays from the draft combine, people in the internet were, this is our guy from Puerto Rico. No, this is Dominican.
Yeah.
So it was like a little fight.
I see that a lot, with the Puerto Rican national team and Dominican national team. If I have a choice, I'm going to have to put on record now it's the Dominican national team. I already spoke with them as much as I can, and I have to do it for my parents' sake. They both played for their national team, so I got to follow up that history.
Could you send a message for Puerto Rico? And
Puerto Rico, I'm sorry, but my love is for Dominican Republic, and if I'm playing basketball, it's going to be with them.
thank you very much.
They both play basketball for them?
Yeah, my mom played volleyball and basketball for them, yes.
Okay. When did you move from Puerto Rico? How old were you?
I was about 2, then I moved to the Dominican Republic for a year, and then went to Ohio for the rest.
I take it you speak fluent Spanish?
Yeah, that was my first language, yeah. I didn't learn English till about like 6 maybe.
Okay.
So, yeah.
You've probably answered this 3 or 4 times, but where are you kind of at in your decision, your stay or go?
Yeah, man, I said 60-40 about, was it yesterday? Man, this whole NBA thing has been insane, so I'm pretty even, I love Michigan, I love the idea of going over and developing, but, the NBA is just like, what everybody wants, so I'm dead in the middle now. It's hard.
Is there some sort of prime, if you get a first round guarantee, is that, are you done? Are you gone? Or is...
Thinking about it now, my ultimate goal would be to try to crack the top 20. Hopefully I can get that. If not, then it'll be a little easier to make my decision because, you never know how that goes above 20, or above 30, it gets worse. But hopefully I can crack that top 20 and see where I go from there,
Your college career is kind of spanned NIL, pre-NIL, post-NIL. Does just the fact that you guys can now get money, and significant amount of money, does that make your decision harder?
No, the NIL thing never really played a fact. When I went to UAB, we never spoke about NIL. It was just play here and try to reach your dreams. And that's the same way I wanted to be. I talked to Dusty a lot about just trying to develop skills that I need to develop, and that's what he focused on. He threw the number out there just because they have it. It was like, okay, yeah, cool. We don't have to talk no more about it. We're good.
Appreciate it. Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Are you a undersized, like big guy, would you say, or are you a tall or like bigger kind of playmaker, ball handler?
I would say I'm a bigger guard. That's my thing. Man. When I started playing basketball, it was all guard play. Try to be like Magic Johnson. So hopefully I can keep that narrative going.
Just talk about the rebounding. Like even when you didn't get the rebound today, it felt like you had a hand on the ball. Like is that just instinct, or how much have you worked on that?
Yeah, I watched a little video about Dennis Rodman speaking about how he used to get the timing down on rebounds, and that's something that stuck with me. I've been using that to my advantage as much as I can. Try to beat everybody to the ball. Like I said earlier, I'm not the most athletic. So I just gotta outsmart the defense. Or offense, either way.
Yeah.
Do you feel like basketball comes like somewhat easy to you? You haven't been playing that long. You just said you watched a video of Dennis Rodman, and now you're just really good at rebounding. Like that, just
All-time
that's not
JUCO
normal,
leader.
Right?
Yeah, I think I do have some natural ability. That just comes from my parents, my family. I guess they just gave me the good genes, and I can't say too much. It's just, I'm super grateful about that. So.
And then as far as the decision, are you viewing it as stressful or a great problem to have that you've got?
Stressful.
Okay.
I mean, it's a great problem to have, but it's very stressful, because you don't want to make the wrong decision. I want to go where I'm at most peace and most comfortable, So I'm going to use as many days as I can, many days I have left to make that decision.
Going back to that NIL question, is it nice to kind of have that option to I don't want to say fall back on, but to be there? Whereas like 5 years ago, if you were in this situation, you wouldn't. It would be maybe take a jump when you don't feel like it, or.
That option is amazing, just so I can, help my parents out, that's all I've wanted to do, but it hasn't really been main focus, but it is something that's big time, just to know that you have that, it's amazing. Yes, sir.
There are about 6 guys from Jersey, Jersey ties that could be first rounders this year. Is that something you take pride in? I know you came from, overseas and everything, but just your time there and whatnot?
Yeah, no, we have a lot of respect for the Jersey guys. I've been trying to see if they would, respect me more too, because I'm not really on the radar for them. So hopefully I can put on a good name. Yeah, I'm underneath them. Hopefully I can, provide a good name for them, and they can start, maybe exploring more when it comes to me. So that would be something cool. But I do want to represent Jersey well.
How much did you play at Pensacola?
I played 12 games my senior year.
Not 11.
Yeah, I think everybody forgot the playoff game, but yeah, so
Okay.
12. Yeah.
Maybe it's some stat.
Yeah.
Your first name, it's not one I can't say I've heard before. Where does it come from?
My mom, she had a friend. His name was her son's name was like Yissel, something like that.
Okay.
And she just stuck with the Y, added an A, and then just put X in the middle. And her first name was Giselle. So the last 2 letters are EL. So took the YA and then added an X in the middle. That's all. It was random.
It's a cool name.
Thank you.
Other than a promise, like how does a prospect know what their stock is? Like, because there's so much noise out there, and then there's mock drafts. I imagine even though people say they don't read them, I mean, someone around them does. Like, how do you actually know what your stock is without a promise like that?
Man, it's hopefully, the guys that talk to my agency, they let them know the truth and stuff like that, and that's all we've been looking for is just the truth. And I just want to have that honesty with any NBA team, letting me know that, I have an opportunity to play, opportunity to, develop, G League or not, I just want to be in a right situation, where I'm safe and comfortable.
Everyone, like, those stories are out there throughout the last couple decades that, like, guys have gotten guarantees and then it just doesn't happen.
Yeah.
Like, is that something you're aware of or afraid of a little bit? Not
Yeah,
afraid,
I am afraid of that situation. Yeah, I hope that I don't get stuck, if I
Right.
get somewhere, that's something I am worried about, yeah.
What was when you left the DR and when you came? What was the situation?
Oh yeah, well I was super young, but my parents.
You were 8, is that?
No, I was 3 when I left the DR. Yeah, I left Ohio when I was 8.
Gotcha.
Last question for Yaxel, please. Thank you.
Appreciate you.
Thanks so much.
Thanks.